Good morning, everybody. John here at Havoc Maker Studio. I'm hoping you're having a great weekend. I am, because I had an unexpected family come in town, and it was so great meeting them and their future fiance slash wife, however you want to put it. It was just an absolutely great weekend to see everybody. And I mean, even the weekend's not even over. I've got a whole bunch of miniatures waiting to be built for Marvel Crisis Protocol and some game content dropped into my lap. I am reviewing the games. So while we're going through this kind of long hiatus or vacation from Marvel Crisis Protocol, at least on Atomic Mass Games side, I can now do some other game reviews in over the next 2 months, since there's not going to be a lot of content, if any, dropping between now and June's mini extravaganza. And plus, I want to feature a lot of other games. So we're going to do that. But today, we're going to start with let's just go with the next part 5 or 5.0 for the top villains that we need for Marvel Crisis Protocol. This one's going to be a little bit more Avengers focused, and I'm going to break it up into 2 parts. So this is going to be 5.0, and then tomorrow will be 5.1, because there are a lot of villains, and I'm not even getting all of them. I might even do an honorable mentions video afterwards, because you guys have been commenting and putting about a bunch of characters out there that I haven't even mentioned yet, or maybe I mentioned in a follow-up video that I just shuffle people around for different groups. So if there's any villains that I am missing that on any of the previous videos, go ahead and comment on those videos. Comment on this video, say, John, what about so-and-so, their classic villain? Why don't you include them? Well, because I might have missed them. I might have put my own little bias in there. So let's get into this. So this is 5.0 for the Avengers. This is going to be the first part of the top 10 list for them, not top 5, top 10, but it's going to be 5 today. Does that make sense? I hope so. And let's just get into it. I'm just really excited about this, because even though it's the bottom of the top 10 list, we're going to go, 10 all the way to 1, it has some of my favorite characters on there. So I want to be able to include them right off the bat, because I really like them, and I think they'd be really good on the tabletop. I might have got mixed up in my words there, but let's get right into it. So we're going to start with number 10, Ares. Now, some of you might be like, Ares, why? Well, first, let's at least explain who Ares is. Ares is the god of war. He is one of the Olympians in the Marvel Universe. He has been a part of the Dark Avengers. He's been actually a part of a lot of different groups, including the Mighty Avengers. Of course, I think it's the Champions of Europe and a couple other weird groups. We know that he's worked for Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, at one point, but he is well known as the god of war for ancient Greece and the Roman Empire. Well, at least in the comics, it's god of war. I think in our reality, the myth is he's the god of courage and warfare, not war, which does make, there's a distinction there. At any rate, let's just move on with this gentleman. Now, he's had a very storied past with various heroes, obviously facing off against Thor a number of times, because there is a big beef, at least there was big beef in the Marvel comics with the Olympians and the Asgardians. A lot of big beef, but eventually the Asgardians kind of pushed everybody else out. There was even the Egyptians, and I think at one point there were, I think Mesopotamian. I'm just butchering that, because we had Gilgamesh running around. All those characters kind of, or those different pantheons got pushed to the side. Asgard really came front and center over the years. Now, Ares has been a major badass. And I'm going to tell you why I think he will show up. He ultimately, though, met his end in recent years against the super powerhouse. Like, we're talking the Superman of Supermen of the Marvel Universe, the individual known as Sentry, literally ripped him in half. So he's kind of dead in the comics for now. But I mean, can you really kill a god? I don't know. So he has the Olympian physiology, so it's similar to the Asgardian physiology. He's got the super strength, speed, stamina. Basically, his skin, muscles, and everything are harder to penetrate, so he can take, explosions and heat and electricity and energy and just kind of shrug it off, or maybe if not shrugging it off, he'll just kind of like, oh no, you shot me with a cannon, that hurt, now I gotta go tear your tank apart with my teeth, that sort of thing. Agility, reflexes, and such, exactly what you'd expect. Now, he is not on the level of, say, Thor or, say, Hercules, who I think we will see in the near future, in regards to lifting, but he is on the high end. I think they had him rated around 70 tons. But what makes him really exceptional, besides all the superhuman features, strength, and everything, is that he has limited magic ability. He does have some abilities to teleport. He's got a couple other magical skills. I'm not saying he's on the level of, say, Magic or Doc Strange or anything, but he does have some limited abilities. He does have a healing factor, and his expertise is in all areas of warfare. So when you put that into the body of basically a deity, he's a master combatant, marksman, tactician, the works. I mean, this guy is he's the god of war. So that puts him on a step above, say Thor, who's not the god of war. He's not the god of hammers. He's the god of lightning and thunder and all that stuff. But it does put him above a lot of other characters in his fighting prowess. And then when you add in all of the deity stuff, that just makes him that more powerful. He wields a variety of items, like he's got his Olympian battle armor. He wields the black sword time to time. He's got the gauntlets of Ares that puts him like on strength almost equal to Hercules. And we've seen Hercules go toe to toe with the Hulk. Even the Maestro, which is a future version of Hulk. So this guy is definitely a beast. We know that he was in the Dark Avengers, and there's a slight possibility, I'm not going to lie, there's a slight possibility he might show up in Thor Love and Thunder, because we know that at least one Olympian is going to be appearing in there. And we know that a lot of gods are likely to be dying in Thor Love and Thunder, which comes out later this year. So I'm putting him in that list, mainly because he fits a lot of roles, especially as a villain and as a kind of hero, since he did serve with the Avengers and the Dark Avengers. So he's at the bottom. But I think with everything going on with his appearances in the comics, the appearances in the cartoons, and the very strong possibility of the MCU, I wanted to include him in there, especially if Hercules is right around the corner. It'd be a great pairing of Hercules and Ares. So next up is somebody a lot of you guys might be familiar with, and it is the Mandarin. Now, I'm talking about the Mandarin from the comic books, not the MCU. I don't know which route they're going to go whenever they do feature Shang-Chi, which I think they will. Will they go with the MCU version, or will they go with the classic version with the 10 rings? Or will they go with the Trevor version, which would be really, really awesome. Even if it was just like a special edition figure, I think that would be awesome. I'd love it. Was it Trevor Wiley or whatever from the MCU? So Mandarin is number 9 on this list. Now, from the MC or the Marvel Universe version, this guy, his main ability is, or his main natural ability without any devices or his 10 rings, is a key manipulation. Allows him to extend his life for a number of years. He can go without food and water as long as he's got keys. He's a superb martial artist, super genius. We're talking like Tony Stark level of genius. But everything else though is he's basically peak human, and that's where it ends, except for the variety of devices. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about his costume, which gave him all sorts of abilities like force fields and ability to fly and stuff. What we want to focus on are the 10 rings. Now, the rings are not magic, they're alien. As you can see in the picture there, he's got 10 rings on his finger, and we're going to quickly go through these, but we're not going to really explain, because I think the names really kind of explain themselves. We have the first ring is the Remaker. It's a matter rearranger ring. You can do some poison and create poison gas and solidify gas and such. Impact beam ring, or AKA influence. Force blast sonic beams. He's got spin, which is a vortex beam ring. Allows him to levitate stuff, do some air stuff. Spectral, which is a disintegration beam ray. Now this one does take time to recharge, just to get that out there. Nightbringer, which is a black light ring that taps into the dark force, which is a fundamental force in the Marvel universe. The Daemonic, it's spelled a little differently, but it's called the white light ring. Does a bunch of gravity and magnetism sort of powers. We have Incandescence, the flame blast ring. You can kind of figure out what that one is. The Liar, which is the Mento intensifier ring. I love these old classic names. Basically, mental domination, illusions, paralysis, that sort of thing. The Lightning ring, guess what that does? And Zero ring, which is the ice blast ring. So you can see how I think this version would be a lot. It could be a little difficult to get all of this into the game, unless his attacks, on every single one of his attacks, you get to choose if it's physical, if it's mystic, or if it is energy. I think if you gave that would be a really cool thing to see with this character, is give him the option to change any single one of his attacks as a different energy type, or a different physical type or mystical type. Change all that up. Give him all sorts of powers like flight. Still give him medium range. He doesn't need like long range or anything. Abilities, give him some armor type thing, because he can create force fields and all that kind of thing. So he can do some damage reduction. The guy can heal, so give him a healing factor. I mean, you can really do a lot here. Give him some of those crazy, like, oh, you need to get a for the incineration ring, whatever, or the incandescent ring, you need, if you roll a wild symbol and a strike, then in that attack roll, and you cause damage, you inflict incinerate. Or another one could be stagger, stun, any of a variety of those status conditions you could inflict with this guy. I mean, this guy could be the ultimate version of putting out status conditions. He might not do a lot of damage. That's one way to kind of balance him out, but he can sit there and willy-nilly change up his attack type and be just handing out status conditions like they're candy. I think Mandarin, the comic version, would be good. The Mandarin MCU version, with his rings that he just basically uses to protect himself or to launch at people and hit, would be kind of boring. Now, not to say that wasn't boring to see in the movie, which movie was absolutely a delight to watch. It was very, very funny, very amusing. I really like Awkwafina in that. It was very amusing, the interaction between her and Shang-Chi. But the Mandarin in that one was kind of tame. He was more like the villain of the week, where this version of the Mandarin is a lot more intense and world dominating versus the other one. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let's go on to number 8. All right. Now, MCU people might know, or Marvel comic player or readers and MCU fans together might know who this is. This is the KLAW. This is Ulysses Klaue. He was played by Andy Serkis in the Black Panther and in, I think, Age of Ultron, the Avengers Age of Ultron movie. And there he is I think a South African mercenary arms dealer. Now in the comics, Ulysses Klaue was the son of a Nazi. He was a brilliant scientist, and he was definitely a foe of Wakanda, and he did try to go in, get a whole bunch of vibranium and such like that. He is the one, at least in the comics, that resulted in the death of T'Chaka, who is the father of T'Challa, Black Panther, not an explosion in South Africa and like the MCU. He is the actual reason that T'Chaka is dead, which prompted T'Challa to become the king. And they've had a very storied history going back and forth. There was an incident that caused him to Klaue to basically become a living sentient being of sound. Now he can, as you see him here, this is his solidified form. He doesn't need food, water, sleep, anything like that. He is essentially indestructible and immortal. So if you were to destroy his body, he can eventually reform as soon as a portion of his body comes into contact with something that vibrates sound, and then he could start reestablishing himself. But he is a sound form. Now, this allows him to do all sorts of sound generation abilities. He's got this converter on his left or his right arm, and he can do everything from high-pitched sounds like 170 decibels. He can deafen people within half a mile. He can do controlled energy blasts, which are like basically the equivalent of like 3,000 pounds of TNT, which is kind of pretty powerful. He can create 3D constructs, including changing his own shape and size. He is pretty gosh darn powerful, and I think we could see some really interesting power techniques there. Throwing a whole bunch of stagger and stun. I think he is a contender, especially as a foe of Wakanda, which we really don't have any bad guys from Wakanda, with the exception of Killmonger. And I know there's some people who are like, well, Killmonger, he's kind of misunderstood. He's not really a bad guy. He killed a lot of people in cold blood. He's a bad guy. I don't care if he's misunderstood. He did some bad stuff. So back up. Now, he does have a weakness against vibranium, but I don't think we'll see that in the tabletop. So really quick glaze over with Klaue, since we know who he is. We've seen him in the comics, we've seen him in the cartoons, and of course, in a way, MCU, though they kind of messed him up in the MCU. So I really suspect we'll see the comic book version, because it just would look better on the tabletop with this colorful costume and his little ray gun thing on his arm versus the sweaty South African white dude with a prosthetic arm. I think this would be better. I'm hoping they'll go this route when they do him. Now, coming up with number 7 is one of my favorite, and I think she is definitely a contender for Marvel Crash Protocol for the tabletop. This is Mary McPherson. She is known as Titania. So she has had a very long history of being a villain, being a hero, being a villain, being a hero, and being a now kind of a loving wife. Years and years ago, the first Secret Wars, and we're talking like, was it the 1980s? I want to say 84, 85, because that's when I just moved to Missouri as a kid. So let's go with 84. And she got sucked up into battle world with a whole bunch of heroes and villains by the Beyonder. Doctor Doom turned her and her friend, who would become Volcano or Volcana, used a whole bunch of alien technologies to give her powers. And she went from being this timid, kind of a shy girl that's always getting bullied by people to this powerhouse. Now she is like a high-level meta-human, and we'll get into her powers here in a second. She's been a villain for She-Hulk mainly, but also the Hulk, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and a variety of other groups. Now, she's even been at a point, there was a series in the comics where the various powers of I think it was called Fear Itself. I think so. The Serpent, which was a deity for, I forget what his name was, but a deity for the Asgardians, sent 7 hammers to Earth. And one of the hammers, Skirn, I believe it was called, turned her into the Breaker of Men. So she basically had her own kind of a Thor hammer. She became one of the worthy, and they went around and did a whole bunch of bad things and good things. Eventually, she would team up with, she would kind of turn good. She would join Gamma Flight with her boyfriend, future husband, Crusher Creel, who you guys might know as Absorbing Man. We've seen him in kind of the MCU, I think in the first season of the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. He showed up, might even been the first or second episode. We'll talk about him in a later video. She would join Gamma Flight, which would go toe-to-toe with the Hulk over the years, would even help the Hulk and fight other gamma creatures, gamma-infused creatures. It was actually, Gamma Flight was actually a really cool initiative because you got to see a lot of heroes and villains that are gamma adjacent come together and work together, and it was really cool. She's been, the reason why I think that she's going to be popping up before we get to her powers is she has reemerged in the pages of the new She-Hulk comic book that just dropped this year, and I thought it was really cool that the way they portrayed her. I'm going to save it just in case you want to read it, but it was a really cool, like, oh dude, this is really an awesome moment when they're talking and fighting and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read this. I might not buy it, but I will at least use the digital app to at least read it. You got my attention. She is also going to be showing up later this year in the She-Hulk Disney Plus TV show. Now, I'm a big fan of She-Hulk. I don't know how I feel yet about the She-Hulk TV show because I've seen some stuff in regards to it. I've read a little bit about it, and we've seen the teaser, and I'm really concerned with Disney and Disney Plus right now with the direction they're going. A lot of the content, I don't care about being all inclusive. What I care about is the virtue signaling, and then just the butchering of characters for the sake of inclusivity. And I'm just like, oh, please don't do this. Don't mess this up. But there was a TV show out called The Good Place. And there was a character in there, one of the main 4 characters, played by Jamil. I think that's how you pronounce her name. At any rate, she's been working out. She has been undergoing this massive transformation to play as Titania. And right now it's on point. From what I've seen, I'm digging it. So let's get into her powers. She, thanks to all that mutagenic abilities or that transformation that she went into, she has superhuman strength. At this particular point, she is in the comics, she is up to 100 tons lifting. That puts her up there on par with a number of heroes that we've talked about before, like She-Hulk, for example, and Thor, and a few others. Now, she also, alongside that, we've talked about it before, she has superhuman durability and that stamina to use the power. or to be able to fight for long periods of time. Now, she's not quite at the level. I think she's just below She-Hulk in the strength level, because She-Hulk has the ability to kind of go plus ultra, if you will. She they absorb gamma energy, get a little angry, and she can boost her strength up. But they're pretty gosh darn close. And she also has the durability. She can withstand high caliber rounds, explosions, energy blast, heat, and cold that would kill any one of us several times over. She has been trained, at least in the comics, by the champion of the universe, who is one of the elders of the universe, one of the beings that have been around since the Big Bang. So she's got the training far above what a lot of other people will have, plus her own street fighting abilities, all of her souped up strength, and because she did get a new boost. And if they were to give her the hammer, I don't know, but I think we could see in the future just as a side note, a game night kit for the fear itself, to where the 7 hammers drop down and you run around and grab the hammers, kind of like we had with separation anxiety. So look for that in the future. That is my prediction. But I think she is definitely a contender for appearing in the near future for Marvel Crisis Protocol. Now, my number 6 one, and this will round out 5.0, I guess is part 1 of 5, but it's 5, you know what I mean, is the Ghost. Now, I think in this particular case, we're going to get the MCU version of Ghost. I really feel like we will. The character's name was Ava Starr. We don't know what the name of the Ghost is from Marvel Comics. It's never revealed. But he has a bunch of aliases, and we're not going to worry about his aliases. Now, he has been around since, gosh, man, like 1980s. He was a Spider-Man villain, or Iron Man villain. I think during the Armor Wars. He's done a lot of bad things, like phasing other villains through the wall and then leaving them halfway stuck through the wall, so essentially killing the person, because you get your insides mixed with the wall. He is joined with various supervillain groups, including the Hood, Justin Hammer, the Thunderbolts, well, good Thunderbolts, bad Thunderbolts. I believe at one point in time he was with the Masters of Evil. But I think we're going to get the MCU version with the Ava Starr version. So that it'll be a little different in appearance, but essentially, instead of being like this criminal mastermind with expert computer scientist, all that kind of stuff, sometimes terrorist, I think what we're going to see is the Ghost, like I said, the female Ghost. That's, instead of it just being about her suit, which that's what the Marvel Comics version, the male version, I guess you can say, everything came from his suit. It's now part of her, because the suit was more of a containment vessel in the MCU. So the suit itself, the Ghost suit, granted him, her, them, they, the ability for intangibility and invisibility, and then all sorts of other things that go along with that. It's all souped up, so it's very quiet. Mask sounds, even up to their heartbeat, allows them to grab other objects to become invisible and intangible, and that's really it. Besides, the Ghost, either version, their only real offensive ability is their martial arts ability, which is not that great compared to other characters, but does make them, formidable against people like Wasp and Ant-Man. But against somebody like Captain America going to whoop the crap out of them hand-to-hand wise. But when you add in the intangibility, it changes things up. Now, all versions of the Ghost are known to use explosives and firearms at some point in time, and I think that would give them that edge. But I think this would be a good character in the Marvel Crisis universe. And even though their physical abilities are low, they're normal human, really. When you combine the intangibility and the invisibility, give them medium or long range movement. And since they're intangible, that does kind of hint towards, having no friction, no nothing like that, to where they can, leap really far. I don't want to say flight, but you give them wall crawling if you want to just go that route, or flight, one way or the other, but give them long range movement. Give them the ability to re-roll defense dice. Give them hey, if you're not within range, say range 3 or range 2, then you cannot target this character because of their invincibility or their intangibility. Give them high defense against physical attacks at the very least. Energy attacks, maybe not so, or mystic attacks. But at least physical attacks, at least give her or him a 4, if not a 5, and then make the other two a 3 and a 2, or a 2 and a 2, something along that lines. Limited physical attacks, maybe one range attack with some guns or something, or some explosions, and then maybe one physical, like range 2 attack that will cause stun or stagger for whoever gets, hey, if you hit this and you cause damage, the target becomes stunned or stagger, or maybe even both. If they're already staggered, they become stunned, or vice versa. I mean, they're not going to be a high damage output character, but they are going to be a type of character that can move about the board, claim objectives, and grab and run. Grab those secure objectives and run for the hills, bypassing terrain, even moving through terrain. So I think this would be a real dodgy type of character that we could see in there. Now, this has been me kind of wrapping up the first, or the first 5 of the top 10. This is 10 through 6 of the Avengers style foes that I'm hoping we will see in Marvel Crisis Protocol. You gotta remember that not every villain, not every hero is going to make it, because at some point we're going to start seeing a lot of overlap in powers, and it'll be like, well, this character is just like so and so. Now, I think when they throw in, because I've seen some stuff with the Marvel Crisis Protocol where they don't have they're not using a power, but they're using something that they're well known for. Like there might be, like we see that with Jennifer Walters, the She-Hulk, a lot of her abilities, like courtroom bash or whatever it is, they might pull some iconic moments from their comic books and make those abilities, or maybe what they're famously known for, something along that lines. That's not necessarily power, but it's just, oh, this person's known for this, so let's turn this into a power or a reactionary ability or an innate ability, that sort of thing. I think that's going to be able to extend the life of a lot of characters, but at some point we're going to start getting overlap. So I don't think we're going to be seeing every hero or every villain, for multiple reasons, but that being the main one. And of course, the feasibility of, are we really going to be putting out 3,000 plus heroes and villains? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Let me know what you guys think of these villains. Do you think any of these are going to make it? Who do you think so far that I have forgotten about? I've already got my other videos set up. I just got to record it. So I already got my top 5 of the top 10 already done, but I'd like to know what you guys think, and we'll see if they actually show up on that list. And also let me know in the comments, do you want me to do an honorable mentions? Do you like these videos? Maybe do an honorable mention, but not as long, just kind of go through, not necessarily talking about their powers or their history, but just go through a rapid list of, say, the top 10 honorable mentions. And if you have an honorable mention, put it in the comments below. Man, you're going to be typing for a long time, but that's okay, because I love interacting with you guys. So you guys have a wonderful Sunday. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you tomorrow. Talk to you later.